Ah, that avatar. I could totally use his wristbands to incapacitate him on my couch and then... Wait! He's from the US. Let me make sure this avatar is actually 18. Good.
This is a video response to ESET Original.
Hello to you too, and any... Hi, Seekie!
And if you don't know of her, she's on the skeptic side of YouTube, like Logic, Armored Skeptic, Barron, Psychonaut, and Stefan Molnix.
Okay, so I know who Molnix is. It's the cousin of Obelix's mom. Oh, no, wait, you mean Molyneux? Well, no idea who that one is. Armored Skeptic and Logic, those two are Mr. Dapperton clones. Barron is the cartoon bear with the pink ribbon. And who on earth is Psychonaut? Did you mean Psychonaut? No, guys, seriously, the last one I genuinely have no idea who he's talking about. You're throwing me in with quite some heavy VIP there. Are you sure I fit?
So these YouTubers, they do a really good job, arguing against fundamentalism on, the Islamic side and Christian side. And I applaud them for that. But one thing they have in common, they always say, is like, they don't believe in God, or they're saying, I need to see evidence, or I need some proof.
Seekie, the reason I am not some sort of cherry-picking Cloudman worshipper is the same as the reason for which I go after fundamentalist Cloudman worshippers. The nonsense they believe in is a crowd control mechanism based on a dogma that is utterly ridiculous and has no evidence. Let me put it like this for you. I know you don't believe in the Easter Bunny who goes around hiding eggs for the children for Easter. You wouldn't just believe me if I told you that he exists. You would want me to show you something that proves it beyond any doubt. Now, if you would just extend the belief courtesy of Easter Bunny to your invisible cloud daddy, my position maybe possibly would make sense to you.
That argument couldn't possibly be more irrelevant. Explain how your ism, your belief in God, is proof that he does exist. You're going to tell me that you do believe in God, and I'm going to say, so what? That's no proof that he exists.
You bring up this part of Armored Skeptic to show that atheists demand proof. But oddly enough, in that snippet, Armored Skeptic neither states that he doesn't believe in God, nor that he requires solid evidence for the existence of God. What he states is that believing in God doesn't make it real. If you believe the earth is a square, that still doesn't make it a square. And if 1 million people believe that the earth is a square, that still doesn't make it a square. And the funny thing is that there are quite a few believers who would actually agree with him, because his logic is perfectly sound. Skeptic, come back to the dark side. The reptiles are missing you. And Seekie, this is a video response to me, not Armored Skeptic. I'm sorry, but I defend my own opinions and not his. Black Knighting for him is Shu's job and not mine.
And, they're always saying that, but are they really taking the time to investigate the supernatural?
Not believing something is our starting point. Whatever you believe today has been told or presented to you in a convincing manner in the past. For example, you very likely didn't make any research to not believe in the Easter Bunny. In fact, you didn't even have to know that the concept of Easter Bunny even exists to not believe in the Easter Bunny. However, you had to have at least one person tell you that there is an Easter Bunny in order for you to even know that there is something you could possibly believe in. But you come along and say, hey, you didn't study the Easter Bunny. Don't be so quick in asserting that you don't believe in its existence. Your thinking is backwards, Mr. Fancy Wristband Picture Person, whose bandages would perfectly fit to the color of my couch. You have to turn it around.
Because maybe I can't prove to you God exists, but I can definitely show you some evidence that the supernatural might exist. And that's where we need to start.
Wait, so you have a problem with mine not believing in your Cloudman, but instead of providing evidence for him, you provide evidence for something else? Okay, let's say I told you that there is a magical frog god on Mount Juju who magically turns state leaders orange. And then I suddenly showed you a picture of Trump. Would you then believe what I told you? Or would you maybe still want evidence for the frog god on Mount Juju?
But even like the Big Bang might be a product of the supernatural interventions from another dimension. We don't know, but it's possible.
The Big Bang might also be a product of a space turtle's digestive discharge. You see, I don't know what was before the Big Bang, nor do I know if before even makes any sense, since cause and effect require time which wasn't necessarily even there. So all I can do is say, I don't know, and I personally don't have any ability to check on it. And so I put a to-do sticker on it and wait until I know more. To assume that it might be a supernatural intervention from a being of another dimension requires me to assume that 1. There is another dimension, 2. Either it or something in it has the ability to intervene in our dimension, 3. The supernatural exists, 4. The other dimension or something in the other dimension does in fact have supernatural abilities. 5. It had a reason, or at least there was a cause for it to intervene in our dimension in the first place. And the list goes on. These are all unfounded assumptions that I would have to make, for which I have zero evidence. The only reason you make so many unfounded assumptions is because of your childhood indoctrination.
So as a Catholic, I have no issues on evolution or how the universe came to be. As a matter of fact, even the church has contributed a little bit to science. For example,
the man who...
Wait, does that video give me a copyright strike? No way, mate. I'm not gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna tinker with it.
gave us the scientific concept of the Big Bang worked here, of all places, in this Belgian cathedral. Father George Lemaitre, born in 1894, may be the most important physicist you've likely never heard of.
Lemaitre was responsible for the idea that the universe not only is expanding, but that the universe has expanded from a dense state. He called it the primeval atom. Now we call it the Big Bang, but it was his idea.
The seed for the idea came from Albert Einstein and his theory of general relativity in the early 20th century. But Einstein himself did not like it. Einstein felt more comfortable in a static, unchanging universe. But Lemaitre took Einstein's chaotic, finite universe to its fiery origin.
Well, the church did not itself contribute to science. It was more a scientist who was also a member of the church who contributed to it. Is it really appropriate to give the entire church credit for what he did? I mean, wouldn't that be like saying alchemy ought to be credited for Newton's advancements in optics and mathematics? Although, to be fair, that connection would at least be more plausible as long as his calculations were a direct result of the fumes he inhaled when trying to poof gold into existence. But let's just say that he was inspired by the Holy Scriptures. The reason his idea was successful is because he didn't go over and say, look, Genesis says X, therefore that's what's happening. He instead used the knowledge of his field to set up a hypothesis that could eventually be tested.
what I have an issue with a lot of you skeptics out there is I think you're limiting yourselves by reaching for the low-hanging fruit and targeting creationists. Because, as Armored Skeptic might say,
Hey, God rules. Could you do me a favor?
Okay,
Could you keep making YouTube videos? You're a really easy target.
okay.
Well, I'm very glad I'm not Armored Skeptic then. I don't have much creationism on my channel, and unless you think you are a low-hanging fruit, I don't think I limit myself to those either.
now I know you're doing it for the lulz.
No, actually I don't. I do it to provide evidence to my fellow reptoids that the state of humanity is so depressing that we should finally eradicate humanity from the face of the earth and take over the planet.
But have you ever taken the time to deeply look into case file studies on the supernatural or the paranormal, such as the UFO phenomenon and the poltergeist phenomenon?
Poltergeist, therefore God. Is that what we're looking at here? Look, Seekie, we can talk as much as you want about whether a poltergeist or a UFO exists and so on. And if you actually manage to prove that, then we can move on to whether or not they're actually supernatural, and so on. But your complaint is that I don't invest time on researching paranormal stuff. And the reason I don't is the same for which you don't waste time reading Dante Alighieri's Divina Commedia in original Old Italian. It's because you're not interested. The reason I focus on religion and not other dogmas is because they have a great negative impact on society. If some person comes around and tells me he got kidnapped by aliens overnight and anal propped, that might harm his reputation, but that's about it. The moment he makes a website telling you to donate to him to cleanse your inner reptoid from sin, I will get out my old dusty UFO out of the garage and fly him all the way up to Pluto, where he belongs. I mean, I will debunk him too.
And I'm not talking about just watching the History Channel once in a while. I mean, have you heard of the author Randall Sullivan and his book, The Miracle Detective? And he was an atheist, and he started to really question it. He really actually went to places and asked, eyewitnesses about different events that have happened to them in the past.
Hold right there, Seekie. What evidence did he gather?
Ask, eyewitnesses about different events that have happened to them in the past.
Okay, so he went out and talked to people. Seekie, I had my small toe chewed off by a dragon once, and it magically grew back overnight. Can you imagine this? I totally saw my toe growing, and I can show you how I have all toes again. I'm an eyewitness. That means I'm like super reliable, right? The thing is, even if people genuinely thought to have seen or felt something, brains are a very bad device to gather and store information. They mess things up all the time. They add details that were never there, they remove details that are important for the context, they alter our perception of something, or they lose the information altogether. To rely on brains or on people's memory is a very bad thing to do.
Of course, there's a level of trust of anything, and you're gonna say, where's the proof?
If you went to a doctor and he told you that you have jinns in your stomach and you have to have an open stomach exorcism to get them out, would you trust him? Just curious.
And you might say, oh, there's really no solid proof, you can't study it.
If anything would exist that is not possible to be studied for whatever reason, then it either has an impact and impacts can be studied, which means that science can tell us at least something about it, or it doesn't have an impact on us, and therefore it doesn't even matter to us whether or not it exists, because it has no impact on us. Sitting there and just assuming there is something, and then start giving it attributes and character traits, and eventually put ribbons on it and praying to it, is at best a waste of time, and at worst pretty harmful, if not deadly.
But I would use the argument by Bishop Robert Barron, who says,
to appeal to matter or energy is to appeal to something that's by its very nature contingent. What we have to come to finally is some reality that is radically other than the universe, which could even be in principle measured by the sciences.
First of all, science doesn't appeal to matter or energy, it studies and describes them. Secondly, when your little priestly friend said this,
what we have to come to finally is some reality that is radically other than the universe, which could even be in principle measured by the sciences.
What he's implying is that reality is not the one we study, but some other kind of reality, for which he has absolutely no evidence. He assumes it and deems it to be true because reasons, feels, you name it. And charitably taken, what his argument boils down to, at least I think, is there are things that science either has not yet explained or might be unable to explain for example, because we missed the tools or the ability to research it, whatever. But that is not an invitation to make wild, blind assumptions. So his argument in a nutshell boils down to science doesn't know everything, therefore God. It seems a bit shaky to me as an argument. I mean, let us replace God with something equally as possible. Science doesn't know everything, therefore flying spaghetti monster. Science doesn't know everything, therefore green Martian space mice deities. Science doesn't know everything, therefore we are all just a simulation in a virtual reality school project of a 3rd grader. Okay, now that I think about it, that last one is pretty spot on. Let me ask the Overlord about this.
Now there's my ultimate point here in this commentary.
But you might say,
Dude, did you just cut off the rest of his argument? I mean, not that I care. You're using him as an argument from authority, which I generally don't accept. But don't just go quote mining your own allies, mate. That's just not helpful.
But you might say,
90% of science is observation. And in observation, we do not observe a God existing among us or above us in any way. A God has not presented itself to science.
and I would say we don't have proof of God, and maybe we shouldn't be focusing on God, but focusing on the supernatural and paranormal events.
Seekie, if there is no proof for a god, then why do you assume one? If you can prove UFOs, then that proves UFOs. If you can prove ghosts or whatever, then that proves ghosts. But proving ghosts and UFOs doesn't make your god any more real. It doesn't turn him into a fact from one day to another. So why do you believe in his existence? But you know what? You said that you can prove the supernatural through UFOs and ghosts. Therefore, you also will have to prove their existence, which makes me very, very curious. So please go on.
And we do have evidence of this. Visual evidence, cause and effect.
Cause and effect tend to be natural occurrences.
So this can be observed. Something is actually manifesting.
Okay, the next thing you will do is talking about UFOs and so on, and since this is a very long video, I figured I'll just turn it into part 2. My audio is already recorded, however, I have asked Oskar Jungell from another channel to help me out with the debunking of the supernatural, because he is a specialist in it, unlike me. Unfortunately, he, unlike me, has also much more to do, and therefore did not yet get to it. And if you want to have it faster, you can totally go over to his channel and really nudge him for me. And if you're into Paranormal, you should totally go over and subscribe. By the way, this is a shout out to Sunburn to Turn. He's one of my patrons who pledged $1. However, he paid me the whole year's worth already within 1 month. And so in order for me not to forget him, I figured I'll just shout him out. You're awesome. Continue to be as awesome as you are. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you really like what I do, consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much to the patrons who are supporting me already, and have a great day.